Yeehaw! The KGC show with Cowboy Caden. The KGC show with Cowboy Caden. Everybody know, ohs. Everybody know, ohs. The KGC show. We're on the set of Danny Speaking, and I have hijacked the show of KGC show by Caden Collins today. And we're here with Caden, and I hope you don't mind. You're on the other side of the camera today, Caden. So please welcome to your own show, Caden Collins,
Danny,
everybody.
well, Danny, thank you so much for special people, in my life. And you've been one of my best friends for a long time. And to watch your career grow and to see it all, with the Josies and with what you're doing with your new record is absolutely incredible to watch. So congratulations and thank you so much for doing it.
Making me tear up a little bit, but we were laughing during sound check, so that's where that's from. But we're not here to talk about my career today. We're here to talk about you, Caden, because I have a lot of questions I've prepared on my little notepad, very professional. And I wanted to start this show about, I want you to first describe yourself to all the listeners. Maybe they haven't heard of you, maybe they have. And so that's my first question. Before we get into all your passions and dreams, I'd love to hear how you would describe Caden Collins.
Well, I would describe me as a fun, rambunctious, all in having a good time. I do like to work out, and I work out, and I battle with health issues, but we'll get back into that later. But I also love to help people as much as I can, and I can't wait for later on in the interview when you guys can hopefully get inspired by something that you hear today. That's what I'm all about, is making sure people can sit around the TV with me and watch my show. And it's revolving around great guests like yourself. And, but I love feeling good. I love ready to podcast it up.
And that's how I would describe, what you radiate and what you bring to your you've got lots of ventures going on, but your podcast, which is Caden TV, I guess. And sometimes you're wearing a cowboy hat, sometimes you're not. It's always a surprise on the KGC show. So I would describe you as a very bubbly, likable, kind person. And I think that's what translates in your art. And that leads me into my next question, Caden. How did your original podcast come about? I think you changed the name early on, and the theme of the show. So tell us more about that.
Well, I was the Spokane man for the longest time ever. I was known as the Spokane man. Well, a mutual friend of ours and incredible guy. He's iconic. I call him the legendary Jeff Panzer. If you don't know him, you should be ashamed of yourself, because Jeff is a guy that everybody needs to know.
Right.
5 minutes before things we can't show. But Jeff and I have an incredible relationship, and so does, and everybody he does work with. And Jeff calls me one day. I'll never forget it. I'm laying around the house, and Jeff says, "Well, who are you using Spokane's name in your show? What are you, some type of government official?" And I said, "Well, man, I shows you how well my brain works." And he goes, I thought you open every show with, "This is KGC. Welcome to the Spokane Man Podcast." And he said, "Why don't you use your initials for the show?" What are your initials? The KGC show. And so after kind of, thinking, man, all that hard work. And I remember And I know Jeff, and I know that Jeff isn't the one to give up. And
No.
he restarted to help me regain the same audience I had over there, but just over
Wow.
here. And the reason why I got into doing it was because of my grandmother who passed away February the 14th of cancer. And
Oh.
I wanted to do something to commemorate her and rememorate her.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to lay around the house, turn to drugs. I didn't want to do any of that.
Mm.
I wanted her memory to go on. And so that's where I started the Spokane Man podcast. Uh, and even it goes back before the name really came from me and my buddy, Mr. Greg Marks. Love you, buddy. Uh, he was he had this Instagram user called the Spokane Man. I turned it the Spokane Man podcast, and so he didn't do anything. We didn't do anything with it. So I texted him one day. I said, "You care if I use the Spokane Man podcast?" And he goes, "No, man, go do it." And so I took off, and that that podcast legacy still lives on. I still get people talking about chemo or not chemo, battle for Bishop Lamont, and I have to credit one guy, and that's Jeff Panzer. And I just want to shout him out and say thank you, buddy, for everything you do, man.
So he's been pretty much your TV mentor.
Yeah, I grew
And
up. We all grew up with Jeff Panzer music videos.
yeah, right, exactly. And it's exciting that someone would take you under their wing and see something in you and that's what's cool about both him and you. You guys don't give up and you just keep going. And even when someone like Jeff said to you, you should change the name, and you didn't stop the show. You kept going. You kept pushing through because you knew that was something even better on the other side. But some people may have given up when they get constructive criticism, but you didn't do that. You just kept moving forward and you took a risk. And I think that's what's so brave about it, because you took that risk.
When I started doing the podcast, I didn't want to make everybody feel a bit of pity for me. I didn't want that. I don't like people who do that. Oh, feel bad for me. No, I wanted to inspire somebody that, there are two sides of death. There's the grave. There's the grieving part, but there's also the healing part. And
Right.
healing, and you can inspire somebody by your healing, and you can tell them a good way to kind of cope with it. I guess there's mental health podcasts. There's a lot more than my show, but what I try and do and have fun with my guests, and I wanted to bring healing to myself and being a light for as many people as people have said I am. I wanted to share that with other people, and hopefully that we all could be shining lights for each other.
That's right. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit about the music element of your show, because I think that's what makes your show so cool. You speak about issues, you bring on different talk show guests, but you also bring on a lot of musical artists. But before we get to that, Caden, I'm going to take us way back to your childhood. And I'd love you to open up with whatever you feel comfortable with, talking about, let's start with your birth and your childhood and what led you to the person you are today.
Well, I grew up December the 23rd of 2003 was the day I was born, and that was the most scariest day for anybody that knew my family, because I was given very little chance of survival because of how sick I was when I was a baby. And the doctors were going to stop after 10 tries if they couldn't get my heart beating after 10 tries, they were just kind of going to give up on me and kind of say, well, we did as much as we thought that the body could do or handle, and we didn't want to overdo it. So that's why we're going to stop at 10, is what he told my mom. And so after about 6 or 7 tries, after the 7th try, I came, and I came with some mental illness. That might explain some of the things I do. But you know, I like to joke about it, you know, because you know, me joking about it is healing for me, because you know, here I have this chronic life disorder, and I could sit around the house and I could mope about it, but I like to make jokes about it. Like, I know why I wasn't the fastest kid to graduate from my high school, because I wasn't there mentally. You know, I like
Would
to.
you say that you've channeled what could have gone against you? You've channeled it into something positive, and that would be your podcast, anything arty. You've channeled it into music and your relationships that you've met in the music world. Would you say that direction you've used it for your advantage in a sense?
Yeah, you know, I've always tried to be a loving person, you know, and I've always tried to be an open heart, you know, open arms, come to me if you need anything kind of guy. And I think that was because of the way I was upraised, you know, and I thought, you know, me being upraised by my mom and my stepdad, and, you know, them showing me, okay, that you might have these slow disadvantages, but you're still like every other person. They never, they never babied me, so to speak. And that's what I love. And the love and the generations of love that they've been given has passed out on to me. And I try and share that with my siblings. But I've always loved to inspire people as long as I can, and for as long as I can, because making people makes you feel good, you know.
It does. Well, that's nice to hear that you had a lot of family support as well and people cheering you on, even though it was a rough start, right? But you got back on your feet and you've made the best of everything.
You
And
know,
that's inspiring in itself.
you said something in a song, and this is my favorite line that I have ever gotten to use, because when I feel like I'm at my weakest, there's a line in one of your songs, and a God who really loves me. And
Oh, the
you know,
17 stars?
yeah, 17 stars. Like, yeah, I've
We don't
never,
need titles, just be who you are.
yeah. And when I heard that lyric, I related that so much to my life, because
Wow.
I finally found that lyric to a song that I could relate my life to, really.
Jeez, wow.
And it was when I heard that line in that, or when I heard that, I I felt reassured again, and
Wow.
it kind of restored my faith. But you know, the reason why I am the way I am today is because of my faith. You know, when you're
Right.
going through something as scary as your faith, or with, you know, my health conditions,
Mhm.
you know, only strong relationship you really have at that young age is with God, because He's the one that made you.
Mhm.
And when everybody was giving up on me, I had doctors tell me I wasn't going to make it past 12 years old. Well,
Wow.
next Saturday, I turned 20 years old. And,
Wow.
you know, I was thinking about that earlier today, and I've outlived a lot of doctors, and I've outlived a lot of people. And I'm here to tell you that you guys, there's somebody going out there going through what I'm going through.
Mhm.
Reach out, there's help, and you've got this. I've got it. You should too. But Yeah, man.
Well, I got a lot of faith in you, Caden, and so do a lot of listeners out there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, if there's anything else you want to say about that, let me know. But I was going to move on to the next question.
Well, Danny, you're doing fantastic. You need Danny speaking again.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of fun at Danny Speaking. We should do a December edition, that's for sure. But I just wanted to talk about something that I feel like is very close to your heart. And I wanted to ask you, where did your love for the Oak Ridge Boys come from?
Oh, well, I can pinpoint to you, well, not today, but I can pinpoint to you the most life-changing song, and the song that turned the song that turned me on to them. They were doing the CMT Awards with Blake Shelton.
Was it?
There you go. There you go.
I knew it.
And one in particular, I had just happened to watch Blake's performance on the CMT Awards, and I was wondering, well, who are these guys? Well, here's the guy hitting the low notes, So after I watched it 30 gazillion different times, I went to work, and I went home working on these guys, and I found their music, and I found Elvira. But I love Oak Ridge Boys. I love all of them. Congratulations! Yesterday, the day that we are recording this is just December the 13th. Congratulations to your show yesterday at the Ryman Auditorium, boys. Congratulations!
Oh, wow!
And wow, headlining the Ryman. That's how
Congrats
you
to
know
the
you.
Oak Ridge Boys.
Yeah, big congrats to
Legendary.
the boys. But the most impactful song that I've ever heard in my entire life was a gentleman, a mutual friend of ours, a friend of the show, really, with brother William Lee Golden and his version of "Time Has Made a Change in Me" on the Rock of
Wow.
Ages record in 2015. I don't. That's weird. How do I know that? But but hearing William Lee's verses on those verses and the choruses of that song, it made me stop and made me really think about my life. When I listen to that song, I close my eyes and I hear, and I can just flash back and kind of I live in the song when William Lee sings it. And that was when I knew, man, I fell in love. I didn't even fall in love with, even me started to sing. I didn't even start loving doing that until I kind of got a hold of the Oaks.
Wow. So you actually fell in love with the music of the Oak Ridge Boys, but then I heard this through Jeff Panzer, who I think is one of the best in the music business. I heard that that's how you guys were able to meet originally. Yeah, there was a funny story there, Caden, about you making a call or something
Yeah.
of sorts. And can you tell us that story?
Well, I'm gonna preference this story by saying I love this media team at 2911. The great team out there, Jeremy Westby and Scott Sexton. Congratulations, guys, on everything. But what I didn't tell you about my health is when the doctors told me that I would come with I would be severely handicapped in the brain. Well, that's true. And I live with a disorder called autism, and it's a part of who I am, and I have to accept it for what it is, because that is another part of why I am so attached to the Oaks, is because of that special, it's just something about the guys that, and them and special needs kids just go see eye to eye. But
So back to the phone call. You were very you took a chance. You just reached out to the top people in the business. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I took a shot at, so I called them, and I wanted to get William Lee Golden, and this was before I knew Jeff. And I had one intention on my mind, and that was to get William Lee Golden onto my show. And I called up there and I said, hey, blah, 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 this is my situation. And at the end of it, I thought it would be a really funny idea. Well, at the time it was funny. Now it's just stupid. Or so I've been told. And I sing a chorus of Elvira. I sing a chorus of Elvira. And I think I do a few pop in my mouth. I don't know about that. All of a sudden, about a week or two later, I get a phone call. I have never heard this person I think it was one or two times before we met. This guy calls me and he goes, what the are you doing? Said, what? He goes, he played me the voicemail. Are you out of your mind? And I said, man, I'm sorry, I just wanted to speak to William. And I'll never forget Jeff. I said, I'll do an interview with you, because I never knew, Jeff existed. And then he, called me. And I said, man, let's get an interview with you. And I remember doing that interview with him. And I remember this great ending to the story. He gets a phone call right after we get done recording. And it says, after we get done recording, he gets a call, and it's from William Lee Golden of the Oaks. And he's still on the Zoom, by the way. And he goes, William, you remember that kid Caden I was telling you about? And Jeff goes, and I hear William go, yeah. And then it cut out right after that. So the first time that I was getting this close to meet my idol, Zoom crapped out. I was so disappointed until I got to talk to him. But yeah, and Jeff has got.
But you eventually became friends with William. So
yeah. But Jeff has taught me a lot. He's been a mentor. I told him exactly what I just told you. And he could relate so much to my story. And he was the first person to say yes, or actually say yes in the industry. And he was the first one to give me my chance. And so
he's like that. He really is like that. He is accepting of all. And we're going to start wrapping this up, only because I'm very sorry. All the koalas on my set have been telling me, Danny, you got to give us lunch. So unfortunately we have to wrap this up. But Caden, I got two more questions for you. And the biggest one I wanted to ask of today, obviously, was what you went through in your childhood, but also I heard recently you became a father. So has that changed things for you, and how so?
Well, yeah, you kind of get a new schedule, you're grinding everything, and also you try and be the best of you, so then that way you can have the best shown in him or her.
Wow.
And that's just something that I kind of live by. So I try and live my life the way I would want my kids to be raised. And
so he will become your son. It's a boy or a girl?
Boy, yeah.
He's gonna look up to you as his idol, and we'll have a mini Caden walking around.
Well, he eats everything he sees, so.
Well, that's beautiful. Has that changed things for? Because we haven't seen you on the podcast as often. Because I gather it's because you got the little boy.
Well, yeah, it kind of shifts what you do, the normal day-to-day thing, if doing a podcast, you don't have time to, because you're doing 50 things at once. And it's hard when you have a woman who, is busy all the time like mine. And so she's running around, and so I step in and I do I do what I got to do, and
That's awesome.
so it doesn't give me time to do podcasts, but I'm coming back in 2024.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and everybody watching that has watched you all of the last year, I'm sure is excited to tune in today and hear more about your story that you've really opened up about. We haven't really heard too much about you personally because you're always interviewing other people. So thanks for opening up today, Caden. And I want to leave you with my last question.
All right.
So the end of the year is coming up. It's holiday season. It's Christmas. And what do you see for yourself for 2024, professionally and personally?
I hope to grow every day professionally, and I hope personally too. And I hope that 2024 is the year of blessings for everybody. There's a lot of people that have helped me get here, Danny, yourself as well. And I just want to say
Thank you.
how privileged, how honored, and how lucky I have been to watch your career. And to everybody, thank you for giving me a platform to interview people like Danny. So my goal going into the next year is bigger and better things for this show as well. This show's coming back number one. We'll be back.
Well, Caden, we want to thank you on behalf of Danny Speaking Set and all the fans at home for taking the time to do this interview and opening up about your personal story, and also inspiring all the listeners out there to have a dream, to keep pushing through all the setbacks. No matter what comes your way, you got to get back up, pick yourself up off the ground and keep fighting. And that's what you've done, and you're a true fighter. And Caden, we can't wait to see what else you create over 2024, because I think it's going to be a very exciting year for you.
Well, it's going to be a great year for you too, Danny. I can already tell.
Thank you, Caden.
And how about we do this? At the end of every year, we have a year recap right here on the podcast, and you and I can recap our year together. This has been fun.
Absolutely. Well, Caden, thanks for joining us on the show, and we're going to take it out with the theme song.
Well,
the KGC
who's singing?
Show.
Someone I know singing that.
The KGC Show with Cowboy Caden. The KGC Show with Cowboy Caden. Everybody know, everybody know, the KGC Show. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. This is Caden Collins, the KGC Show, and Danny speaking. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeehaw! The KGC Show, the Cowboy Caden, the KGC Show.